Okay, we're here with the final project for our tennis player year-round performance program. We're going to start in the stabilization phase, then progress to the strength and power phases. Right now, I'm going to show you day one on my template. All the acute variables are on there. We're going to start with some foam rolling, static stretching, and then get into some resistance, plyo, core balance work. So we're going to start out here with some foam rolling on the calves. So tennis players have to do a lot of cutting, and frequently they'll have tenderness, soreness, mobility restrictions in the ankle. I'm going to work on both sides of the gastroc here, medial and lateral, about 30 seconds on each side, and then I'm going to switch. I'm also going to take the tennis ball and do some rolling on the medial part of my scap. Okay, so I'm just going to lay down here. If this is too much pressure, and it might be for some kids, you can do this against the wall also. But I'll take a couple deep breaths within the ribs here. Feel some tension, especially in that dominant side hand. And I might move my hand in the sagittal plane, maybe a little bit in the transverse plane, maybe coming around the front. Hold any tender spots for about 30 seconds. I can move on to different spots throughout, and then also work both sides of the shoulder. Then I'm going to continue with the soft tissue work, do some foam rolling for my adductors. Again, with cutting, this is often an area of soreness, maybe some mobility restrictions. I'm going to work all the way from the pelvis right up to the knee. Okay, I can change my toe position to emphasize different parts of the adductors, even getting the quads and hamstrings a little bit. Then I'm going to finish lateral ribs, so to get my hand up for serving and for all my different strokes, I want to make sure that my lateral rib cage does not feel any restrictions. So I'm going to really work here because this is going to increase mobility and my rotational strength and power. Okay, then I'm going to get in this phase, we're going to do some static stretching. So I'm going to find a fence or a wall here. I'm going to get into a stretch here. I'm going to hold it for 30 seconds on each side. This one's a gastroc soleus stretch. If I want to get more of the gastroc, I can keep my leg straight. If I wanted to get a little bit down and deeper into the calf, I'm going to bend my knee slightly, hold each side for 30 seconds. Then I'm going to go into carrying off what we did with the lats on the foam roller. We're going to go into a kneeling lat stretch. So I'm just going to anchor my hands down, exhale, and take some nice deep breaths into my rib cage as I hold this one for 30 seconds, stretching from the shoulder all the way down to the hip. My next progression, or my next exercise, I'm going to go with a posterior shoulder stretch. So really I'm looking at that capsule back here, especially in my dominant side. So I'm going to drive the hand as high as I can go. I'm going to push my scap against my rib cage, and then I'm going to kind of look up and then down with my head a couple times just to get loose. Then I'm going to hold it here up high for 30 seconds, stretch it here, and then stretch it in my posterior shoulder girdle. You'll see a lot of difference right and left side with tennis players and their mobility. And then I'm going into the kneeling anterior hip. So I'm just going to come down to a kneeling position. I'm going to reach up and then drive away from that kneeling side hip into the frontal plane and hold for 30 seconds on each side. And then I'm going to get my posterior hip. So especially if you get kids who sit in school all day, then have to come out and play tennis, I'm going to drive my knee up, get to a position where I feel it stretch right in the back of my left hip here, and hang out here for about 30 seconds on each side. Okay, so static stretching, that'll hit some key areas for tennis. Then I'm going to go into my core and balance movements. I got 3 of them here. We're going to go into a 4-point kneeling. So I'm going to work on keeping the torso stable as I reach long in the sagittal plane with both my lower and upper extremities. Hold for about 2 seconds, and then recover and go on the other side. Goal on this one is to get the core stable while the extremities move. 3-plane balance reach. I'm going to go stand on one leg. Okay, this is going to activate both sides of the lower extremity in all different directions. So I'm going to go forward, reach forward, then back, all while holding my single leg balance, couple in the sagittal plane. Then I'm going to go across in the frontal plane, and then I'm going to rotate in the transverse plane. Okay, then obviously switch legs. Supine hip extension, final one for the core. I'm going to get my hip extension or extender scroll, especially if I sit all day in school. I'm going to drive my hips up to the ceiling. Low level activation drill. The ball allows me to kind of get a little bit deeper in the hip flexion before I go into extension. You really want to feel like the glutes are going to be doing a majority of the work here. Our cue here is to really push those feet through the ground. Okay, we're going to finish out here with some plyos, but we're just going to really work kind of just a little activation and work on stabilization, deceleration. So I'm going to push across. Okay, I'm going to try and stick the landing on this. I'm going to get as horizontal as I can, coming across, stick the landing, hold. So I want to get as far as I can while being able to nail that landing to start to prep the body for some multi-directional cutting. Okay, we're going to come in here. After we do our required number of sets, reps, and everything on that, you know, the tempo on that, on all these is going to be really slow, really focusing on eccentric. And we're going to go a peripheral hard action circuit here, pretty much alternating between upper and lower body, low intensity, high number of reps, and a emphasis on eccentric. So we're going to do a low cable row from a single leg deadlift to start the circuit. Okay, we're going to go through this required number of reps on each side. So I'm going to get into a good hip bend position, reach long with my back leg, and then I'm going to come up out of the deadlift and come into a row. So I got opposite leg, opposite arm, and then repeat it for the required number of reps. Then I go into an upper body dominant exercise. I'm going to go into some med ball push-ups. Med balls give me just a little instability. Going up and out of the push-ups, good for shoulder girdle stabilization, rotator cuff activation. My next exercise in the circuit, we're going to then go into some lateral step-ups in the balance. So we're going to move side to side here. So I'm going to grab my dumbbells here. I'm going to step, okay, stabilize with my right hip, step down under control, right back up. Now I can leave my foot on the box or step off completely on this. It's totally up to you. Nice and tall. The big thing here is coming down under control and stabilizing. Then we're going to go, once we get on each side, we're going to cable row from a split stance with a stick. So I'm going to create some instability by keeping my hips pretty close together. Okay, but now I'm going to drive back my left arm into my left hip pocket. Slow and controlled on the eccentric. A little bit faster on the concentric. I'll repeat the required number of reps on each side. Then we'll move into a rotational lunge with a balance. So I'm going to step across the body. I can go here and then step across the body, coming into a balance. So I'm going to drop, push through my right leg, stabilize with my left hip. I'm going to slow down that eccentric a little bit, pause, and then get out of it into a balance. Back to the other side, and then we move on to the final exercise. The single arm, single leg horizontal press. So I'm going to take the cable here, Kaiser cable. I'm going to grab with my left hand, stabilize on my right leg, stay nice and tall, and then I'm going to push out horizontally while I hold everything here nice and still. So some good rotational forces going through my entire body here. Then on this day we have the option to finish the program after we do our circuits here with some steady state zone 1 emphasized cardiovascular. You can also do that on another day depending on the schedule of the athlete. Then we'll finish with a cool down, give the athlete some choice on whether they want to do some more foam rolling, some more stretching, maybe massage on the power plate. 5-10 minutes, done with day 1.